Welcome to Hop's Metal Show Live with Metal Blade recording artists, Byzantine, specifically OJ with us here this evening. Excited about this because they're going to be headlining a show in Winchester, Virginia on June 21st called Freaks Unleashed Metal Fest with our friend Chris Jacobs with Dark Cloud Productions. We'll talk about more of that soon. There's some neat stuff specifically for Byzantine coming up about that, but we'll get to that before we're done. Hop, why don't you start with a cool stat you found and then start on some questions?
Yeah.
I was on Spotify and I found this, thought it was interesting. It says Byzantine is just spot on, powerhouse vocals and a killer thrash sensibility, just right up my alley. It makes the kid and me happy. That's Mark Tremonti from Tremonti and Alter Bridge.
No way.
I thought that was cool. You know, Tremonti's he's been around for a couple years.
Mark Tremonti has sold 2 or 3 albums. Yes,
yeah, just a couple.
He's very successful. That's a great quote. That makes me happy.
Were you aware of that?
I was not aware that quote was on our Spotify. No.
That's one of those things you're like, shit, that just made my day right there.
Yeah, we played a one-off show in Johnson City, Tennessee, maybe 8 years ago, and just so happened that we were opening up for Tremonti. It wasn't a tour; it was just we got booked that show. Found out we were open for Tremonti, was like, shit, this is going to be awesome. We get there. We didn't even think we would meet the guys. He came in and watched our sound check and then immediately walked up to our guitar player and said, I want to buy your amp. Apparently, Tremonti is a very big fan of boutique amps. And my guitar player had a Bogner Ubershaw amp. And Mark said, tell me what you want for it. I'll sell it. And my guitar player said, if Mark Tremonti wants my amp, that means it's good. I'm going to keep it. So it was a really cool interaction. We hung out with Mark and the rest of his guys, the drummer who is now in Mammoth. And they watched our set and then they jumped up and played. And yeah, that's great that Mark has that quote for us. That's awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So with that said, give us some history of the band because Chris Jacob, when he and I were talking the other day, he said that you guys hadn't released for several years. You've got this new album coming out. We'll talk more about later. Give us some history.
Yeah. So we started the band in the summer of 2000. I had just graduated college from West Virginia University, and I had always wanted to team up with a guitar player named Tony Rohrbaugh, who was a local legend in my home state. So he was playing for a band that was on Century Media Records called Chum at the time, filling in. Me and him both had time, so we formed Byzantine, and it for a couple of years we just did it with a drum machine because we couldn't find a drummer locally that could pull off the style we were trying to formulate, which is basically progressive, technical, but groove metal. So we ended up finding the drummer who actually was a guitar player who just had been playing drums for 9 months. And immediately after we got our guitar player / drummer in the band, we got signed to Prosthetic Records. So we started Byzantine kind of later on in our age. We were all late 20s, early 30s. Normally people start bands, they start high school, but we were already grown-ass men. And now it's 25 years later and we're grumpy-ass men. But we're still doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can fill you in of what happened over the last 25 years that has evolved into where we're at now. But there is a lot of ups and downs. Yeah.
Sure.
Says you've released 3 albums on prosthetic.
Prosthetic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Prosthetic.
Record.
Yeah.
And then self-released too. What was the reasoning for the leaving prosthetics and going on your own way?
The prosthetic album deal that we signed was a 3-album deal. So once we got to the end, we weren't happy with our relationship with prosthetic. It was really rocky. They're LA, we're West Virginia. We didn't really match very well. And we also were having a lot of financial issues in the band because our guitar player had a wife and a house. We all had jobs. We were not making any money at all, So like I said, if we were 17, 18 broke, it'd been fine, but we were 32 and broke.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of issues going on. So when that third album came out, we decided to just call it quits because we thought this isn't for us. My wife wanted to have children. So we just wanted to be grown up, and that didn't work out. So we reformed after. But we broke up for 5 years after that because it was kind of a bitter breakup. And then when we got back together, there was no record labels interested in us. So we decided to put 2 albums out independently. Just so happened the second one we put out independently went number 1 on Sirius XM for like 4 weeks above Slayer and Lamb of God. And that got the attention of Brian Schlegel and Metal Blade, who decided to offer us a record deal after that. So.
Yeah, I guess getting Brian Slagle, I guess that was pretty awesome when he contacted you then.
It was very awesome, and it was very unexpected because we were out slogging around on the Northeast playing shows, trying to support our second independent album, which would have been our 5th album at the time. And we showed up to Brooklyn or Long Island. It was a shitty show. There might have been 50 kids there. We weren't pumped. We were just going to probably mail it in, just give them about 75% and then move to the next show. But just so happened, in walks Jose Mangan, who was a friend of ours, Rob Caggiano from Anthrax, Brian Slagle from Metal Blade, and then Chris Santos, who was a chef on Chopped. They all walk in together, and we looked over the door, and we're like, I think we better play well tonight. And I guess Jose had told, Brian that we were playing. So Brian hopped on the plane from LA and came to see us and offered us a record deal that night. So, yeah, it was unexpected. None of them told us they were coming. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So clearly you've got a good relationship there, and Hop will probably ask some questions around that. I'm going to ask a question. So I've written a couple books. I'm about to finish my 3rd one, and I've self-published each. And quite frankly, I've done it because I've had complete control, and I haven't had to go through anybody else's BS to say, no, Wes, you need to do this. They're my damn books, right? Mm-hmm. Did you have that feeling? What did you like about doing self-released? I understand you didn't have somebody booking your shows and so on. You guys were working hard for it, but what did you like that you could do on your own versus the first run with prosthetic?
I really like the creative control from the front to the end. We knew that without a record label, things were going to be really hard marketing wise, but we also knew that if we wanted to do a ballad or we wanted to do a 9-minute Opeth style song, we could. And when we did the 2 independent albums after prosthetic, that's when our sound really evolved into doing some longer compositions because we said, fuck it, we'll just experiment. Who cares? We're not on the label. And I think that added an extra ripple to what we had already built on the first 3 albums, which was basically thrash metal and groove metal. And then when we started adding progressive stuff, King Crimson style things, it really opened up our sound to where now when people hear us, they say it's a very unique sound. And I think we achieved that on those 2 independent albums.
Yeah, and that's where I expected. That's what I was going to hear. We've talked with a number of different folks that whether they're Blacktop Mojo have become pretty good friends of ours over the last several years, and they've been done their own thing the whole way through. And we've talked with several of the guys from Kicks, which aren't too far from your hometown, right?
So no, not very far at all. Yeah.
And they mentioned where the creative control was a little bit stymied in one of their albums and so on. And
yeah,
hey, I still use Grammarly for my albums, OJ, or for my books, OJ, because my grammar is terrible. I barely graduated high school. But the reality is I can always hit reject suggestion if I think it still needs to be a little bit hillbilly.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I totally agree.
Pop, jump back in there, brother.
All right. So I guess the next question String put was your last album, The Cicada Tree, was released 2017. And being as it was on Metal Blade Records, how did you notice a increase in sales and fan base and stuff like that?
No, it actually did worse.
Really?
To be honest. Yeah, it did worse. And I think one of the reasons is because the last independent album we did, we had hired a marketing company from New York called The Syndicate, who was very well entrenched in marketing. And that was the second album that we had worked with them. So by that time, we had really got a rapport with The Syndicate. We knew what our money was getting. The Cicada Tree, when you start on a record label, it's a feeling out process, So I think our marketing and the money that was spent on the Cicada Tree was a little less than what we spent on our own, because they wanted to kind of just fill it out and see if we were even going to, it had been 13 years since we had been on a label. So they were like, here's a little money. Here's a little marketing. Let's see if these guys quit. We gave them a great album. The other problem is that we did not land any touring. We did one tour on the Cicada Tree with Sacred Reich, and that was it. So if you don't tour behind your album, it's a death knell. And at that point, we were in between booking agents, and we just let that album cycle slip. So this new one, though, Metal Blade is pushing all their chips to the table as well as we are. So,
well, that's cool.
Yeah, this time I think we'll see a bigger return on our investment.
Well, it's like, man, the music business it's a tricky thing anyway. A lot of stuff, especially after talking to guys in bands, it's just a lot of stuff that the average person don't even know goes on. Like I remember talking to Rick Rule from Everybody's Nightmare, talking about how they had to pay to get on the radio. Like you had to pay so much to get your song, in regular rotation. Yeah. It just seemed like all big money game behind, the behind the scenes.
Nobody does anything for free. Yeah. And in this industry, that is doubled down upon. So even though the record label helps us, record labels are in essence a glorified bank. They're no different than going to the record label and saying, I need $11,000 for this album, or going to my bank and putting on a loan. The main difference is the record label, they do have Metal Blade has a fantastic marketing arm. So that's what we're interested in. But everything costs money, from renting RVs to buying T-shirts to just paying. It's paying lighting guys. It never ends.
It amazes me the stuff that we hear, the numbers that come across the table.
If you're not out touring all the time, if you're not a constant tour whore, you literally have to have a really good day job that funds your band. Because your band's not going to make money. Like, luckily, I'm a bathroom and kitchen remodeler. I own my own business, have for 15 years. I make really good money, and I tell everybody I make that money so I can lose it in Byzantine. So, but it's fun. It's for the love of. We do it because we love it.
Well, that's the same way. That's what me and Wes were talking about. That's why we do these interviews, is because we love the music, and we want to keep it alive.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and my favorite part about these, my wife and I, just like you said, we work for ourselves, and it's a grind. People look and say, well, you own your own business, you've got to be making gobs of money. Well, some days are good, and some days I'm glad she hadn't left me. You know what I mean? So it's
damn straight. One of the things that makes our band kind of unique is we're such a common man band. Like, even though we've been signed and we've been doing this for damn near 25 years, every one of us work day jobs. We got kids. This is just for fun. But all our fans, they don't really understand. They're like, why don't you come to California? Why don't you come to Canada? And I'm like, man, I got a toilet to go sit for a homeowner. Like, I'd love to. So yeah, it's a weird dichotomy with Byzantine that we have to be very domesticated, but also we have to be global, putting our music out globally at the same time. It's a hard tightrope to walk.
So, Hop, I'm going to skip a little bit because OJ just said something about Metal Blade pushing the album and so on. It's coming out June 13th. Your album is.
Yeah.
8 days after that, you're going to be headlining the Freaks Unleashed show at Backseat. What a cool venue. I'm sure you've been there.
I have never been there.
Oh, you're going to love it.
We have never played Winchester, Virginia in our whole existence. So this will be our first show there.
It's a nice venue.
That's good.
Yeah, I've only been a few times. Hop and String have been several, but I'll tell you, my first time being there, I got to take my son see Kix on one of their last few shows. So kind of special, but nice venue. We saw Jackal there 3 months ago.
Yeah.
So cool venue. You're going to love it. For us as fans, we love it. For you as a player, it's a first class venue. They've done a nice job.
I have heard it sounds fantastic.
It really does.
So.
What do you expect there? For fans coming to see you on the heels days after your album's released with Metal Blade, what should they expect from you guys?
Well, they should really expect a band that's on fire, even though we're older, because we've been practicing our butts off. We did rehearsals all day today, all day yesterday. We got another weekend of rehearsals. We're going to go do a show in Brooklyn and a show in Massachusetts to warm up for this show. So by the time we come to Winchester, we should be cooking with gas, so to speak. We're going to play one or two of the new singles off the new album, but a lot of our set will be focusing on the legacy stuff of the first 3 or 4 albums, because we're probably going to have fans coming from DC and Baltimore and West Virginia that want to hear stuff that they've probably been listening to for 20 years. So we're going to give them some, all across the board. So,
OJ, part of why we wanted to have this conversation with you now is you being just over 4 weeks away from that show. We wanted to be able to promote the crap out of it so you could get the reach. Now, if I'm coming and you guys obviously have merch table set up, what's the odds of me getting stuff signed?
100%. 100%. We don't do meet and greets. We have a lot of promoters ask us, how do you want to do the meet and greet? We're like, we don't do them, but there's no reason to do a meet and greet because we run our merch booth. So a lot of times one of us are all the time hanging out at the merch booth just to make sure we interact with fans. A lot of times it's me. Sometimes I have to quell that because if my voice needs saved or whatever. But we're going to have a new shirt design to go along with this. We got shorts, we got toboggans, hats, we got all the CDs, and we will be there ready to drink beer with our fans and take photos. I'm doubly excited about playing Winchester because I actually went to school there for a summer. I attended Shenandoah University when I was 17 years old. My parents sent me there to figure out if I wanted to be a musician or not. So I went to Shenandoah, and I damn near failed the whole summer. And I came back, and they said, "So I guess you don't want to be a musician, huh?" And I was like, "No, I really want to be a musician. I just don't want to read theory. I want to play by ear." So they were hoping I would give it up, but nope.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah, I asked that specifically because one of our favorite things at this point is having the interaction, not just here, but when we go to the shows, being able to have some one-on-one time, and not even one-on-one, but have that interaction. And I think that's really, really cool. I mean, and I'm not going to kid you, it still is kind of awkward for me when somebody comes up and says, "Hey, are you willing to sign your book?" Yeah, why the hell do you want? Oh, because I wrote the book. Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to remember who you are to those people.
I'm just a hillbilly. I'm just a guy, right? So,
yeah, it's a great burden to have. It's a great burden to have.
Yeah, so. And hey, I never take it for granted. I enjoy the interaction. I'm glad somebody wants to talk to me in those situations.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and it's like when we meet these guys, that's like we'd hung out with Jeff Worley from Jackal down at backstage for their show, and he was so cool. So that kind of puts him on a different level. Then it's like he took his time. He didn't have to hang out with us.
Right. You never know, and also like when you're in a band, even if you're in a bad mood or whatever, you never know if you're talking to somebody that one is a massive fan of yours, and that interaction could impact their life, tremendously.
Oh yeah.
Or the person you might talk to at your show might in 6 years be the head of Apple iTunes Music. You never know. So we just try to show up and be as cool and the Southern gentleman as possible.
Yeah.
Hop, jump back in. Sorry, I took the reins there a little bit.
Oh, you're good. When I first listened to, I think it's the Cicada Tree, I was listening to it. Well, I was listening to it while I was at work, so I just had it on headset. I didn't really see the song lineup. But Moving in Stereo come on, and I'm like, wow, I know this song because I used to be like Cars was probably my go-to before I got into metal.
Yeah.
So what made y'all decide to cover the Moving in Stereo? Because y'all's version is kick-ass.
Thank you. Actually, that to put a feather in that cap, I didn't even sing. I didn't do the lead vocals on Moving the Stereo. Our lead guitar player, who has a fantastic voice, sings better than I do. He sang that one. So we thought that would be great because Cars, with that song, the main singer doesn't sing it. The bass player does. So we did the same switch.
All right. I didn't know that neither.
Oh, yeah. That's not the lead singer of the Cars singing.
I just always thought Rick sang it. So
no, it's the bass player. He also sings one of their biggest songs called Drive.
Really?
Yeah. Beautiful song. So we are all massive fans of 80s pop rock music, synthwave. It's what we listen to more than anything. The Cure, Depeche Mode, Tears for Fears, Hall & Oates. That's what Byzantine listens to in our vehicle. So it was just a no-brainer to go do a Cars song, and our guitar player said he wanted to do it. So we put it together, and luckily it ended up winning cover song of the year on Sirius XM Liquid Metal that year.
It is a really good cover.
Yeah. We ended up beating out Hellstorm, which was crazy.
Oh yeah. But one that's like, I don't know if you've ever heard "Time" by Rat Child America. Do you remember them?
Remember them? Yeah, Rat Child America is one of my all-time favorite bands. All time.
Brad?
Brad actually produced our second album.
Okay.
Rock on. Yeah, we interviewed Brad. Super cool guy.
Brad is such a good success story. From going from Rat Child to Souls at Zero. I would go watch him play in Morgantown when I was at school, and sometimes they'd come in and nobody'd be there, and he was so depressed. And now to see him so important in the music scene, it warms my heart. But we hired Brad to produce our second album, and They Shall Take Up Serpents, and that's where I met him. And he's just a wonderful human being. But that version of Time is beautiful.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah,
it's probably one of my favorite covers.
Yeah, it's great.
But that's really cool because we got some interaction for the Ladders for Leaders show that Brad and Brian and all them done. And
because
we did
Brad plays some kicks now, don't he?
Yeah,
that's great.
So
now he's doing sound.
Yeah, making money, man.
Oh yeah,
making money.
So how did you get hooked up with Chris Jacob for this upcoming Freaks Unleashed Metal Fest?
Chris contact. So if you go to our standalone website, which is ByzantineWV.com, Chris went through our general booking inquiry, and he contacted our booking agent and sent the information. We vetted it, looked at it, and we said, "Yeah, I think that would be a great show to kick off this album with." And Chris seems like he's a very litigious he's on top of things. We're excited to work with him.
I'm excited for you guys to get to. I had a conversation probably half hour, 45 minutes a few days ago with Chris, and just to get to know him. Hey, how can we lock arms from Hop's Metal Show? What can we do to support you? Like Hop said, we're doing this because we enjoy it. We know how hard you work for it, but I'm going to be honest, Chris is working his tail off right now to promote this event, and
that's good.
He should.
That's good. I'm glad he is. Yeah, as we get closer to the show, we'll probably be doing some video interactions online with our fans. We have a Patreon where our hardcore fans pay monthly for extra access, and we'll probably put up some type of perk on Patreon for any of them that want to come to the Winchester show. Maybe a VIP hangout or something, free merch. But we're going to do what we can to get some people there.
Hell yeah, I'll do like Gene Simmons did and just have somebody pay you to work with you for a day.
Yeah.
I heard he actually sold one of them. It was
I bet he
$1,200 to hang out with Gene Simmons for a day.
Oh man, and be treated like crap. Man.
Now, with regards to this upcoming that show in Winchester, are you familiar with, or do you know any of the guys in the other bands that are going to be there that day?
No, that we'll be playing. We'll be coming in with fresh ears. We'll be definitely listening to see if there's any of the bands that we might want to pair up with later regionally. But because we do like to listen to the opening bands. Normally, like the band that plays right before us, we never catch because we're always in the back getting ready.
Yep.
But everybody else we listen to. But yeah, it'll be interesting to hear all these new music.
Very cool.
That's probably pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's fun.
We get to sometime over the next week talk with a guy named Billy from Devil in Disguise, and we're going to be catching up with Chris himself to talk about the whole event. And you may probably know this, Chris is the vocalist for Last Two as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we're pretty excited about all the different pieces and learning more about it too. And again, just to respect the work he's putting into it.
Yeah. I hope this goes off to where he can continue to expand and do it every year. And, because it sounds like the venue is big enough to grow.
Yeah, it's classy. I mean, I was telling Chris when we talked, my wife and I are doing an event in a whole different space, not in the music scene, the week prior to that. And before you got on, Hop and I were chatting about it's all the time. It's a heck of a lot that goes into doing anything like that. So
right,
I respect him.
Yeah, that's cool.
Hop, jump back in and throw some questions.
Yeah, y'all are from Charlestown, which I've actually been down to the casino to see a couple shows.
Charleston.
So we're different. We're
yeah.
Charleston. All right. Well, I can still ask this question. What is?
Yeah.
What's
And-
the music scene like that? Like where you're from?
Um, the music scene here in Charleston it's pretty eclectic. Like, since we're like the capital city, there's like 50, 60,000 people live here. The heavy metal scene has kind of took a dip. It used to be great. It used to be great like 15, 20 years ago. But now the music scene is really good in the kind of like the singer-songwriter. We have a girl here named Sierra Farrell that just won, I think, 5 Grammys. That's from Charleston on her debut album. So
Wow.
that singer-songwriter stuff, like the Tyler Childers style of music, huge around here. That's all the rave right around here. And then we got a lot of great pop punk bands. But sadly, I think the heavy metal scene around here is kind of in the tanker right now. But
Yeah, I've
hopefully
always
it'll
said
come back up.
I don't think it's gonna go away completely. I just think it's running this cycle right now. I think it's
Yeah.
on the ups because there's a lot of good bands out there, but everybody's not relying on the record companies anymore.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
OJ, that explains why you were looking at me like I had an elbow growing out of my head when I said we were an hour from you or so.
Yeah.
I was seeing in our notes, I was seeing Charlestown, and Charleston
Yeah.
is 5 hours. So I'm
Yeah.
tracking.
There
Yeah,
we
and
go.
I thought I'd read on Spotify, but then I seen Chris had wrote Charlestown, so then I was confused. So
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
that's my bad.
That's okay. Yeah, we're from Charleston.
Yeah. Well, that makes more sense why you haven't been in Winchester and been at the venue. Because if you were in
Exactly.
Charlestown 30 minutes away from it, I'm like, well, shit, it's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
Hence the Brad Divins comment and all the different stuff there. So
Right. No, we're
Well, gotcha.
we're literally like an hour away from Kentucky. down
Yeah.
there, so.
yeah, I've got a buddy from high school that lives in Hurricane, I believe is where he's at now.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
he's closer to you than Charlestown is to Winchester, I think.
Yeah. Exactly.
What is I guess you talked about y'all were big in 80s synth music. What is some other stuff y'all were big into? Was like old school Metallica, Pantera, stuff like that? I heard y'all were compared to Pantera. I
Yeah,
read that
so-
somewhere.
If you want to go with heavy metal, we always described ourselves at the early on of being a mix of Pantera, Testament, Opeth, and Meshuggah. So we always like had those elements. Since then, we have expanded, profoundly with our styles of bringing in like, just all kinds of different genres. But the early metal like Exodus and Slayer and Pantera and all that we loved. But the 80s music is probably what we always
Wow.
gravitate towards. Because back in the 80s, like you almost had to be a fantastic singer and a guitar player, what I mean, to rise. It didn't start until grunge moved in. Like you could be a little less talented and still be fantastic. But and then we also love grunge. Like you can't get by. Like, well, I'm not going to just say grunge. I'm going to say like the Seattle area. Like we love Queensryche, love Heart, love Alice in
Even
Chains,
Jimi Hendrix, even.
Jimi Hendrix, Stone Temple Pilots, all that stuff. Like we're massive fans of all that music too. So
Yeah. I can't put grunge and Queensryche in the same sentence. I'm gonna have to call you out on that.
I think I think I was trying to make a tie-in with the Seattle scene. Yeah.
Actually, Hop mentioned Mark Tremonti earlier. I compared not long ago Queensryche to Alter Bridge because the vocals are so precise, the music's so intricate, and so on and so forth. And neither I want to put into the grunge scene because I don't.
Yeah. No, that's a fair comparison. I hear that with some Queensryche. So I run a music studio down here now, so I'm starting to get into the audio engineering side. So really fantastic recordings intrigue me too. And Queensrÿche Empire is probably one of my top 10 recorded albums in hard rock.
Okay. 100%.
Is that the direction you're going in then?
Yeah, it is. I own a music facility here in Charleston. It's like a 6,000 square foot music facility where we have rehearsal spaces, and we build a recording studio, and I build it for other engineers. Well, some of the engineers kind of flaked out, so I decided to try to learn how to do it since I've been in the studio for decades producing and making music. But now I've fallen in love with it. So now that's my next passion, is to actually record and mix bands. The first album I ever recorded is the new Byzantine. I recorded this one and mixed it myself. This is my debut. So I'm fascinated with that side.
Well, in the single, I listened to the single and I thought it had a really good sound to it. So
yeah, I definitely pulled my hair out. Well, if I had hair, I would have pulled it out doing this. But I am very proud with how this new Byzantine album sounds. I think it holds up with anything that you can hear out there. Yeah.
That's good.
Very cool.
Thank you.
So I'll ask a question that's on here, and we've kind of touched around timeframes and stuff. How did COVID and everything that went on through the mid to late 2020 into 2021 impact you guys as a band?
I think COVID, we released the Cicada Tree in 2017. We were in a down period at that point anyway. Me and my wife had just had our our first child. So I was home kind of raising babies at that point anyway. What hurt from COVID and the pandemic is what we're experiencing now, is that the music industry was put on hold for like 2 solid years. So now we're trying to get out there and try to get on tours, and all these bigger bands are so backed up with trying to catch up on their finances. It's hard to find a tour because of the pandemic, So
I'd heard an interview this week. I think somebody was saying, I can't remember who it was, but they were saying the same thing. Said the business just flooded right now.
Flood. Everybody and their brother wants to go out on tour. So for us to try to get one, it's impossible. Like, we're probably looking at 2026 before we can even do some actual touring. Yeah. But
so you was saying Sacred Right earlier. Is there any other bands that you played with that you toured with or anything?
Yeah. When we first started, like our first 2 albums, we were out touring quite a lot. We toured a lot with the Lamb of God, Shadows Fall, Kitty, I Hate God. So we were playing with all kinds of different styles of metal, sludge metal, who else did we go out with? Back in the day, we would play with everybody. Chimera, so we did a lot of touring with Lamb of God before they got massive.
Well, they're Randy Blythe. He's from Stanton, which is like 20 minutes from us, Wes.
Mm-hmm.
And they're from Richmond, so that's like 2 hours from us. We go down there to watch shows a lot.
Yeah,
they're big down there. They're big because that's their hometown.
Exactly. Yeah, they're real big. They were actually who discovered us. Chris Adler got us signed. So yeah.
String said. Yes, String. He's the other guy that does a show with us. I guess he's getting ready to go see Shadows Fall and tonight.
That's cool.
Virginia Beach. So I guess he's just chiming in.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, we don't tour a lot. We do a lot of just one-off shows or weekends. So every once in a while we would just go out and, okay, we're showing up here, and who's headline? Oh, it's DRI, or it's a Super Joint Ritual, or it's, like all these bigger bands that, we would always love, but, every once in a while we just show up and we're like, oh, nice. We're opening up for a killer band. So.
Yeah. I think I heard a song the other day. I was riding around the mower. I was listening to it, but I think y'all have a Propane sound a little bit. I don't know if you listen to Propane much.
Yeah. Propane is a groove metal band, and we are a groove metal band. So some of our roots come from that Propane, like just sledgehammer riffs.
Yeah.
Oh,
and their first album's classic.
Classic. And the singer does what I do some, which I call shouting in key.
Yeah.
So you actually got the heavy vocals, but you're actually hitting notes. And Propane.
That's probably I'd say that's probably what I heard.
Yeah.
What's been the coolest experience you've had?
Coolest experience I've had. Man, I can't say just one definitive time, but I can say what the experience I always love is when a bigger artist that we're a fan of, we find out that they're a massive fan of us. That's the coolest thing. Like the last album we put out, every once in a while, like I'll go a couple weeks where I feel like we should just hang it up. You know what I mean? I'm just home doing stuff. And then I'll get an email from Dino from Fear Factory, and he'll just be like, dude, love your band, like out of the blue. And that stuff keeps me going. We found out like Gene Hoglan, who was a drummer for Strapping Young Lad and Testament and Death, is a massive fan of us. So much so that when we did the Sacred Right tour, the first show was in California, and he showed up with and gave us brownies. So stuff like that makes a small town West Virginia boy feel like I think we need to keep doing this. Yeah.
So OJ, the book I released earlier this year is called Leading with Clear Purpose, and it's really around that theme that, man, it's being in business for yourself, taking responsibility for doing those things. It's hard, and by golly, there better be something that drives you. And I think I quoted Mark Twain somewhere in there where Mark Twain said that a good compliment or a genuine compliment can carry a man for a couple weeks or something like that. Yeah, we'll take that.
Hey, so, my computer is about to die, so I'm going to walk and get my charger while we're doing this.
10-4. Well, I'm going to read this comment. Our friend goes by Little Wing on his YouTube handle. He says he just listened to the 2 songs. He really liked the song structure, heavy but melodious, and would recommend Byzantine to his friends. So you've got a fan in Japan chiming in right now, brother.
That's Japan?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Fumi, thanks for weighing in, man.
Yeah, that is cool. My charger, my thing's dying, and I'm doing the Zoom call. I'm talking to my wife. Sorry.
So
awesome.
Hop, do you have anything else that you want to ask you just in case we lose him?
No, just looking forward to the show. It's gonna be awesome.
Yep. So
I can't wait for y'all to get to see Backseat. It is a really nice venue.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it either. And I hope we get a good crowd in there, not just for us, but for Chris and the production company and all the other bands. I think they deserve it. And it'd be nice to see Winchester have a really big, successful heavy metal show. I got my charger in now, so we're good.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So I was pretty excited to see Lil Wing chime in on that because he's that's where I can say there's folks in Japan that have access to books I've written too, because he's been a big supporter of the show and just a fantastic person.
That's great. Yeah. So
and he and I even have some offline conversations about our related political views too. That's been pretty neat to see too. I'll keep that off the channel for here though.
There you go. Am I the first interviewer for this Freaks Unleashed festival?
Yes, you
Yeah.
are, sir.
Oh,
Thank
great.
you for asking that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you letting me kick this off.
Yeah. Well, and so it all came together fast. I had the conversation with Chris Jacob, I think on Tuesday or Wednesday. And like I say, I've got a crazy schedule for the next month. And he said, well, give me some dates. So I did that on Thursday morning. And by middle of Thursday morning, he said, we'll do this one, we'll do this one, and we'll do this one. And I'm like, oh, dear God. That was fast, but we'll make it happen. So
Yeah, that's good.
here we are.
I worked the night shift, and I went to bed. I have nothing on my calendar, and I woke up, and I had 3 gigs. I told my wife, I said, Wes has done booked us 3 interviews while I was sleeping.
Hey, man. So Wes is burning the midnight oil, aren't you?
Hey, caffeine's my drug of choice, my friend.
Mine too. Mine too. Absolutely.
Hey, I tell people all the time, pray for my wife because she's got to deal with this shit 24/7 because we work together too. So
Oh my God.
it's what we do.
Yeah.
So,
Is there anything you want to? I know you got a new album coming out. Is there anything you want to plug?
Yeah. So if anybody watches this and they're unfamiliar with our band, I would love for them to go to Byzantine WV, which stands for West Virginia, ByzantineWV.com. We have a very simple website that just has our merch and our YouTube channel and our shows. So you can go on YouTube, watch our videos. I'd love for people to maybe start with the new album, go on Apple, iTunes, or Spotify and put a pin in the new album Harbingers, which is coming out June 13th on Metal Blade Records, and then become a fan for life. You know, that'd be nice.
well,
And you may go, Wes.
yeah,
Go ahead.
absolutely.
I do have one question I meant to ask you. Where did y'all's name come from?
So I was looking for band names in 2000, and I wanted something that was synonymous with the type of music that we were writing at that time on demoing out. And I thought our music was a little complicated, which in today's terms, our music is very mainstream, how metal has got so much more complicated. But in 2000, we thought it was kind of tricky music. So when I write lyrics, I always use a thesaurus to help give me better synonyms or antonyms, to describe what I want to say. So I looked up for the synonym for complicated, and Byzantine came up. So I did a simple search to see if there was a band named Byzantine. There wasn't. So we trademarked that. And then I had already known about the Byzantine Empire succeeding the Roman Empire and being very famous for developing like a really complicated judicial system. And that's where the term comes from. Byzantine means complicated because their judicial system is what we use today. And I was like, oh, this is just great. We're going to run with this. We're going to run with this. So we've been running with it for 25 years. Yeah.
Cool story. I always like to hear them stories.
Well, the other thing was I didn't want a name that gave a negative connotation off the bat. Like if somebody picked up our CD in Best Buy and it said casket full of babies. You know what I mean? Most people are going, oh, that's heavy. I'm going to put that back. But Byzantine, they'd be like, what's that sound like? And then they got to listen, So, and then we hook them.
And then they'll have to find a thesaurus, and most people aren't going to do that.
They will not. No. Yeah.
Hell, I'm not going to do that.
I got it bookmarked. It's my first bookmark. The thesaurus.
Nice.
Roget's thesaurus.
OJ, what else do you want to make sure that we put out there before we call it done?
Other than our new album Harbingers coming out, and other than we're playing Winchester, just give us a chance. There's a lot of metal fans out there who have heard our name, but they've never listened. We've always been that band that just kind of slid by them. So if somebody would just give us 10 seconds, just go to YouTube, choose a video, 10 seconds, I would greatly appreciate it. Because the music is what we put the most emphasis in. Playing live is great. Doing all the other stuff, photos is great, but writing and recording high quality heavy metal is all we really care about. So just listen to the music.
That's cool.
And we'll throw a plug for that. I mean, the conversation that String and Hop and I've had, it has been, holy crap, it's amazing that you're not huge, because the music is tight. I mean,
thank you.
It's very intricate, and y'all play it well.
Yeah, we really put a lot of love and effort into it, and I specifically, as the main songwriter, like with the lyrics, I take a lot of great pride in my lyrics. A lot of double entendres, and so that stuff normally gets lost in heavy metal. But I always thought that was one of the greatest things about some of the bands I loved growing up, is the stories that would be in the song and taking you to a different time and place. And we really put great care into that. So I appreciate you paying attention to that, Wes.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Oh, if you'll hang with us, I'll close it out so we end the recording, but I'll share some stuff with you if you've got 30 more seconds afterward. Hop, anything you want to do before we call it done?
Nah, well, I did appreciate it.
Yeah.
And hope all goes well at the show and all the good stuff. And thanks for your time.
I appreciate you guys, man.
Thanks for hanging out with us. Hang tight with us, OJ. Be right there.
Okay.
See ya.
Pop metal.